Loops are one of the most important ideas in programming. If you understand loops, a huge part of Python will suddenly click. In this video, I'll explain for loops, while loops, iteration, and how break and continue work, step by step, with simple examples. A loop is a way to repeat code automatically. Instead of writing the same code over and over, we tell Python how many times or under what condition to run it. Here's an example of some code with no loop. It prints hello 3 times. This works, but it's not scalable. Let's say we wanted this 1,000 times. Then we'd have to actually write it 1,000 times, and that's a problem. That's where loops come in. So we'll start with the for loop. A for loop is used when you want to loop over a collection of items. Here's an example of a for loop. It says, for number in a list from 1 to 4, print number. Here's what's happening. Python takes the first value, 1, and assigns it to the variable number. It then runs the code inside the loop, which prints out the number. It then moves to 2, 3, and 4. I'll run it so you can see the output. And you can see the numbers in the terminal here. Now let's go over the range function. We often use the range function to loop a specific number of times, like with this code here. It says for I in range 5, print I. This prints 0 through 4, not 5, because the range function starts at 0 by default. Here is the output in the terminal. Here's an example of a custom range. It says for I in range 1 to 6, print I, and it prints the numbers from 1 to 5. You can see the output in the terminal here. Notice that it's not inclusive of the number 6, it only prints the numbers from 1 to 5. You can use a loop to loop through strings. This code says for letter in Python, print letter. This is called iterating, going through each item one at a time. Here is the output of that code in the terminal. Okay, so what is iterating? Iterating just means looping through items one by one. You can iterate through lists, strings, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. Here's an example. Here we're looping through a list called names and printing out each name in the list. Here is the output of that code. Next is while loops. A while loop runs as long as a condition is true. Here's an example. This loop starts with setting a variable named count equal to 0. It keeps running while count is less than 5. It prints out the value of count and then adds 1 to count each time it runs. And it stops automatically when the condition becomes false. Here is the output of that code. Alright, next is what is an infinite loop? For infinite loops, if the condition never becomes false, the loop never stops. Here's one example of what it could look like. That while loop never stops because the condition is the value true. Since the condition is always true, it keeps running forever. This is called an infinite loop. It's usually a bug unless you stop it with break. So what does break do? Break is a loop control statement that immediately stops the loop, even if the condition is still true. Here's an example. In this code, once I equals 5, Python exits the loop completely. Next is the continue statement. Continue skips the current loop iteration and moves to the next one. For example, here's a for loop that uses the continue statement. Here, when I is 3, Python skips print I, but the loop continues. So this loop prints 0 through 5 and skips 3. You can see that in the terminal here. Alright, let's go over break versus continue. Here's a quick comparison. Break stops the loop entirely. Continue skips one iteration. Here's a mental model. Break means you are done looping. Continue means skip this one. Here's a common real-world example. So this code checks each password to see if it's weak. And it prints out that it's checking a password and which password it's checking. In this example, a password is defined as weak if the password is admin. So the code prints out checking password 1234, then checking password, then weak password found. And you can see that output in the terminal here. Okay, now let's go over when to use for loops versus while loops. Use a for loop when you know how many times you're looping, and also when you're looping over items. Use a while loop when you don't know how many times you'll loop, and also when you're waiting for a condition to change. If you understand loops, you're officially past the beginner wall in Python. Alright, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads.